Hello and welcome to another episode of Down to Disness, a monthly series where I pick a Disney animated movie and talk about its history and its impact on pop culture. This month's movie is 1995's A Goofy Movie. Not the Goofy Movie, a Goofy Movie. Goofy Movie is the first of its kind here on Down to Disness because it is the first film from what is now known as the Disney Toon Studios that I'm going to cover here on my channel. A Goofy Movie is a full-length animated feature based off of the character Goofy and his son Max, and it is a spin-off end cap to the Disney afternoon television show Goof Troop. Goofy, even on Goof Troop, was previously a pretty one-dimensional character that was only there for gags. With A Goofy Movie, they set out to give Goofy more emotions and show his more sensitive feeling side. The film starts at the end of Max's final year of high school, and Goofy sets out to take Max on a cross-country road trip in order to bond with him before he goes off to college. To get a sense of how a road trip, father-son type movie should feel, the writer of this film, Jim Magin, actually watched a lot of road trip classics, like the National Lampoon series. And actually, there were a few funny locations that Max and Goofy were supposed to end up in that didn't make it to the final film, including the set of a show called America's Funniest Gladiators and Hawaii. How did Goofy and Max end up in Hawaii? The world will never know. Now, A Goofy Movie is actually really big on fun Disney Easter eggs, and one of the first Easter eggs that we see is during the road trip song sequence on the open road. Two hitchhikers prominently appear in this song, and they are, of course, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. But it doesn't end there. You can also spot an Ariel cutout from The Little Mermaid on stage during the stand-out sequence. Bambi appears in the department store that Goofy works in as a photographer. Principal Mazer is himself an Easter egg because he's based around Richard Nixon. And you'll notice that Goofy's keychain features the classic Disney D. Also, director Kevin Lima and writer Brian Pimental make cameos in the audience of the standout performance as these two goof characters. That one's Brian, that one's Kevin. If you watch my channel or follow me anywhere on the internet, you might already know that A Goofy Movie is my favorite Disney movie. But what I love the most about it is the soundtrack. It has probably the most underrated Disney animated movie soundtrack, although it's becoming pretty popular these days. But did you know that there was actually a love ballad that was cut from A Goofy Movie called Roxanne? The studio at the time didn't think that people would want to see a love ballad in a Goofy cartoon, and so it was cut from the film. Speaking of the soundtrack, have you ever wondered who inspired the greatest rock star on the planet, Powerline? It's actually a combination of three very famous performers: Michael Jackson, Prince, and Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown was actually initially considered to voice Powerline, but ended up not doing so because of these substance abuse allegations that were going on with him at the time. And the voice went to Tevin Campbell instead, who did an exceptional job. I love Powerline songs so much. As you can imagine, taking a classic Disney character like Goofy and giving him a full-length animated feature was different than taking any other story and turning it into an animated feature at Disney ever before. First of all, people are already extremely familiar with Goofy. How do you take such a beloved character that people know and love and put him on the screen for over an hour? How are people going to deal with that? What do they need to feel connected to this character that they already know so well? I think the biggest thing would be Goofy's voice. Luckily, they had Bill Farmer, who had already been voicing Goofy on Goof Troop, continue his role for A Goofy Movie. Bill Farmer had actually been voicing Goofy since 1987 and is still voicing Goofy to this day. Similarly, Jim Cummings came on to voice Pete, and Rob Paulsen continued voicing PJ. Jason Marsden, who a lot of us might remember from classic 90s sitcoms like Boy Meets World, did the voice performance for Max. And although he's a very talented singer, he was not actually the singing voice of Max. They had a different actor dub him over, but luckily, if any of you were present at D23 2015, Jason Marsden got his chance to perform live with Bill Farmer, singing on the open road in front of an audience of super excited Goofy Movie fans, including myself. What's funny in mentioning these very famous Disney voice actors who have been voicing the Goof Troop for many, many, many years, when they were starting to make a Goofy movie, Jeffrey Katzenberg didn't want Goofy to sound like Goofy in this movie. He brought up the idea that maybe Goofy should have like a normal dad voice for this film because maybe we wouldn't want to hear this Goofy voice for so long. Bill Farmer, among others involved in the project, thought that was ridiculous and kind of overruled him, and honestly, thank God. Putting more life into Goofy and giving him his own movie also answered age-old questions that people have been wondering about Goofy since he first premiered in his own short. Namely, what is Goofy's name? When Goofy first pulls out the map that shows the route that he and his dad took to Lake Destiny, Idaho, you'll notice a list of names on the bottom of the map. These are the names of Goofy's dad, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Speaking of the map, the infamous map that so much of this plot revolves around, it also reveals where Max and Goofy live, which is apparently somewhere near Columbus, Ohio. So going back to Kevin Lima, this was Kevin Lima's directorial debut, but he actually went on to direct a bunch of other Disney movies that you would definitely know, including Tarzan and Enchanted. Kevin Lima also lent his voice to a very important character in a Goofy movie, Lester from Lester's Possum Park. Who's your favorite possum? Lester. Another extremely important voice in the Lester's Possum Park scene is Pat Buttram, who plays the showrunner, the owner of Lester's Possum Park, who introduces the show. Pat Buttram is an extremely famous voice and character actor, and this was actually his final film ever. He did his vocal recordings for a Goofy movie and shortly after passed away, and that is why a Goofy movie is dedicated to Pat Buttram. So at the time, a Goofy movie was produced both by Disney Television Animation, because they'd been already doing Goof Troop, and Walt Disney Feature Animation. Today we have a group called Disney Toon Studios, which handles projects like this. Today, before a Goofy movie, Disney actually made the DuckTales movie, which was their first attempt at taking a Disney afternoon show and turning it into a full-length animated feature. And for DuckTales the movie, they actually had an animation studio open in France, where French animators did a lot of animating for DuckTales. Since that went so well, they kept that animation studio going for a Goofy movie. Kevin Lima and a lot of the people who produced a Goofy movie talk about how French cartoonists are so good at exaggerated, cartoony, animated movement, and they really loved that got imbued into a Goofy movie through these French animators. A Goofy movie was initially supposed to be released in the holiday season of 1994, but was delayed until 1995. It was pretty well received in theaters. It wasn't a flop and it wasn't a success. It was just moderately successful at the box office, but as we know today, it has become a cult movie for millennial Disney fans. It's truly just one of Disney's biggest cult classics, and I feel like it's only been picking up steam in the past 5 years. We can't get enough of our Goofy movie. I truly don't actually know what it is about this film that has resonated with me so much that it has become my favorite Disney movie. It's the nostalgia, it's the 90s feel. I never cared much for Goofy, but I love Goofy in a Goofy movie. I just love everything about it. I love everything about a Goofy movie. It's my favorite Disney movie. It makes me feel so happy and light when I watch it. It reminds me of being a kid. It's truly the movie that I could watch every single day and not get sick of, and that's why it's my favorite Disney movie. I came across this little snippet that said in the very first VHS release of a Goofy movie, there was this preamble to the movie called Dr. Looney's Remedy by Parachute Express. Basically, before the actual movie started, there was this music video, and it was crazy. I remember Dr. Looney's Remedy. I still remember all the words to Dr. Looney's Remedy, and I'm just wondering if anyone else out there also had the first release of the VHS tape for a Goofy movie and also remembers Dr. Looney's Remedy. You feel better. Anyway, I'm sure so many of you out there watching are like me and grew up loving a Goofy movie and are part of this cult following of this film. And so since I'm having so much trouble articulating what it is about this movie that I love so much, I would love, even more so than normal, to hear what it is that you guys love about a Goofy movie. Let me know in the comments below, and per usual, let me know what movie you'd like to see me talk about next month on Down to Disness. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon for another video on this channel. Bye!